Welcome to No Clip. This is not like an official, real episode here. Me and JJ, say hello, JJ.
Hi.
Are just gonna record this little intro bit and then another intro bit for the next segment. But there's a lot of content that was removed from both the Kingdom Hearts and Undertale episodes.
We like those games.
Yeah, those are both very good games, and so I wanted to use it, but the episodes were going on sort of alongside, so we decided to jam them together into a shorter, sort of, I guess, bonus episode.
Yeah.
If we want to be so self-important as to call hearing us talk more a bonus. So the first thing that we're going to play for you is a discussion that Andy and JJ were having about Kingdom Hearts 2, which we had actively decided not to talk about on the show. But you cannot shut these motherfuckers up about Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, Dutch.
So, if you want to, give a brief description of what you were talking about.
Intro to this clip is, we were debating the amount of, whether or not it was consistent for Sword to have displayed so much ludicrous anime strength in Kingdom Hearts 2 compared to the kind of things he was capable of in Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and fade this out and then fade in to that clip, so enjoy.
He's wielding a weapon. He's not a superhero.
He takes energy attacks to the face constantly.
But he's just a kid. That's at least the way it's set up in the first game. He's a kid who's given this supernatural weapon that grants him some special abilities. And in 2, they're like, fuck it, he can jump 30 million feet in the air.
'Cause he's older.
He can cut through buildings. He can
I remember when I was taking the presidential fitness test in the 4th grade, and I could only high jump a foot and a half.
Not just
And then in the
physically.
in the 6th grade, I jumped over the school and into the next county.
He can do this shit better in 2.
It feels inconsistent, with the way the rest of the game works.
Why can he do his shit better in 2?
It's
Did you
not
just say he was
inconsistent.
frozen
It's
in an
not
egg?
inconsistent in 2.
Yes,
it's inconsistent
he
in
can't
comparison to 1, and that's it.
No, he can't do that much. He can't do stuff to that same level or caliber throughout the whole
Sonic
game.
Blade
Which
exists
one is
in
that?
1. It's essentially Rising Sun, but as a skill you can use at any time.
Yeah, and that's it's an ability of the Keyblade. If he had a regular sword, he wouldn't be able to do that.
Well, yeah, because he wouldn't have magic abilities.
Yeah,
all his abilities are from having the Keyblade.
Yeah. The Keyblade lets him do that attack. That's different than him just being able to jump 50 feet in the air.
It's a fantasy setting.
I think it conflicts with itself.
It conflicts with 1. It's all
it conflicts with 2.
You can teleport in 2.
It's specific to that situation because of that attack.
Drive forms.
Drive forms are magic given to you by the character, like the fairies and Mickey and Merlin.
Yeah, but you have the magic.
Yeah. And you can only use it in specific situations.
No, you have the magic.
And you can't use it all the time. You use it and then you have to recharge
mechanically
it.
there's a drive form gauge, but the fairies didn't give you a drive form gauge. The fairies gave you clothes with magical powers.
Right, and then they still have a period of time after you use them that you can't use them anymore.
You're missing my point. My point is that it's established constantly in 2 that you're superhuman. In regular gameplay. Not to the same extent, of course, but that's why it's a final boss. Because you're doing ridiculous, over-the-top shit better than anything you did before, because you're at the absolute peak of your abilities.
But you couldn't do that 5 seconds ago before you walked through the door. And now that you've walked through the door, you can cut through buildings and jump from 50 feet.
It's not because you can walk through the door. We're only saying that because it's within the context of a video game. Think of the stuff that you did on all Organization 13 boss battles leading up to that fight. You sprint up the side of a building.
Also stupid. That's what I'm talking about.
That's not... You're switching between two different points. You could have the point where you think it's dumb that they ever empowered him at all, or you could have the point where the amount he's empowered in the final boss battle of 2 is inconsistent with 2. I'm saying that we can disagree about whether we like how much he was empowered in 2 or not. I'm okay with that point. Mm-hmm. The point that I disagree with is that it's inconsistent within the context of 2. It's inconsistent compared to 1. It's completely consistent in the context of just 2.
I see. I would still disagree. I think it's consistent from the time you get to the world that never was to the end of the game. Before that, reaction commands never grant you, like, would seem to be able to grant you the ability to run up a wall.
The dragon in the Mulan world.
What about it?
It's like 1 billion times your size, and you have the strength to literally knock it out of the sky into the ground.
And how do you do that?
No reaction command.
But, like, what does Sora do to do that?
He hits it with the Keyblade.
And that's it?
Yeah.
Are you sure you don't have to, like, jump up onto it and then hit it a bunch first and then knock it down? Because I think you do.
But why is that relevant?
Because it makes sense, or it makes more sense anyway.
It's like when you run, like,
you're like, if you get up on top of it, and then you're, like, attacking it, and you do, like, a couple of combos, and then the reaction command comes for you to then make, like, a final blow that knocks it out of the sky.
What you mean. Okay.
Makes more sense than you just being able to, like, throw the Keyblade at it and it falls out of the sky.
Sure. In Beast's Castle,
okay,
you jump on top of a chandelier, force it onto the ground, shove it into the boss that you're fighting at the time, spin it around the entirety of the, like,
the Heartless
dancing.
is inside the chandelier. So when it comes down,
yeah.
Then you jump onto it.
Yeah.
You didn't jump up into the
But
air.
you're forcing the chandelier to fucking spin and hit it.
I think it spins itself. Because if you don't if you don't jump onto it, it spins around anyway, and that hits you as an attack.
Right. So then, what's the reaction command then?
You're jumping onto it and avoiding the attack.
No, because it damages it. It takes it out of the chandelier at the end.
At the end, he does fall out of it, and then you hit him with it.
I have no idea what the you're referring to is.
But the Heartless comes out of the chandelier, and you hit it with the chandelier.
But we can move on. You previously established that the instantaneous Hydra decapitations, you thought,
is ridiculous.
Yeah, but saying it's ridiculous, you agree that it's an instant of superpowers. I guess
that kind of falls in line with the movie where Hercules can do that. Is probably why it's in there.
Maybe different. The Lion King level, when you are literally
fuck the Lion King level like through and through though. It sucks.
Even if you don't like it, it's still an establishment.
Sora does jump 1,000,000 feet.
As a lion.
On top of the Heartless thing.
When it comes down to try and stop you, there's a reaction command in which a thing the size of like a 5-story building, elephant creature, attempts to smash you with its paw, and you fucking block it. You go up and then throw it away.
I guess that's true. Okay, that's one instance.
No, 2, because you accepted the Hydra sequence.
I get okay, two instances.
Arguably magic in the Aladdin level in 2, when you're fighting the 2 like ice and fire demon heartless creatures that are like jumping around and using magic on you and stuff. Do you remember that?
Yes.
There is a reaction command sequence in that in which you grab a hold of one of them, force it onto your Keyblade, aim it at the other, and fire it off like a rocket launcher into the other.
That all seems...
That seems pretty Keyblade-centric.
Yeah, Keyblade-centric, yeah.
No, all my points are Keyblade-centric. He can't just do...
true, yeah. That was part of my point.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I wasn't really trying to help.
I mean, it is, though. It is Keyblade-centric. It's magical abilities of the Keyblade.
But the Keyblade is not central to you being able to sprint up a building.
I'd argue in the lore of the game it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I would probably agree with it.
Yeah. I mean, you could actually, like Final Fantasy shit, like the Cloud fight, the Sephiroth Cloud fight cutscene.
Mm-hmm.
Cloud does ridiculous shit, and he's not supposed to have magic of any kind.
Right. But anyway,
God, last week we talked about a game where you play as a little girl who can't walk around bushes. Like this is so backward.
Yeah. All right, well, let's talk about other things.
All right.
Well, I think of water.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about it while he's
Kingdom
gone.
Hearts.
Actually, I'm gonna do like 9
Sora.
things. I'm gonna use the bathroom and do water and
Jumping like a million feet in the air.
Like a fucking like a winged puma.
And then you jump on like a dumb motorcycle that comes from nowhere. Riku just shows up on it. And then you guys fight a fucking metal dragon.
And he's gone.
A Blue Eyes Black Metal
He walked
Dragon.
away.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Played the Blue Eyes Black Metal Dragon card, and you have to fight it. It's time to duel.
It's in the heart of the cards.
Fuck that whole ending sequence.
Wasn't that classic?
Oh, that was such fantastic content.
I know. This is certainly not 1 minute after our last recording. So, the other piece of content that I had that I wanted to put in was this bit that we did on the ending of Undertale. I think that the discussion that we had on the game was a lot more substantive than what we cut out, because there's a pretty good portion of it that was just like us reading Wikipedia.
Because when we go through all this, we only do like one playthrough. We're not a review site. We're just like a weekly game playing site. So going through Undertale, a game whose one of its biggest sort of pushes was multiple like replayability and multiple endings and all sort of nonsense.
We all got the same ending.
Yeah. we didn't have a lot of the information about everything with the game going into it.
Right. We still want to talk about it because we recognized it as being like part of what made the game unique. So we did like look some stuff up and then talked about it for a little while. But a lot of what was in the beginning of it was super boring and
we
like,
hated it.
Yeah, like, just not very good.
Some stuff was wrong. It was
but we did have a fairly decent discussion about like how the endings affect our interpretation of the game, which I do want to play. Mm-hmm. It's also worth noting that I think that since recording this episode, me and JJ have had like a number of discussions on this game, and particularly relating to the argument that we had at the end of the episode.
Yep.
And I think we're fresh-faced youths in the podcasting community, so maybe we're not like as experienced as we should be. But I think in the future we're going to attempt to get that like the level of discussion that we had outside of the cast onto the cast.
Yeah, that seems fine.
Yeah.
This is, I don't know. I often wait too long with games like this to marinate. Oftentimes to good results, but things go real slowly in terms of my opinions. For example, since recording the Undertale cast, I have solidified in myself in my mind that Undertale is my favorite game that I've ever played.
Oh, that's pretty...
Surprise. That's pretty surprise.
I'm not as surprised. But,
damn it.
But, also, there are some things in this recording that you're about to hear that are just, like, objectively incorrect. Mm-hmm. So, I guess take the opinions expressed within with a grain of salt.
Yeah. We're putting this here mostly because of our discussion of what we think, how different endings, when they're wildly different and in some ways inconsistent with each other, can affect your experience of games and whether or not we think that's a positive or negative thing. Not necessarily the specific facts in Undertale's case.
Yeah, so I'm going to fade this part out, and I'm not going to fade in the other one. It's just going to be kind of an abrupt wall of sound. So prepare yourself for that.
I just learned about this, so I'm not going to have any valuable insight.
Well, I don't know. The way that I see it is kind of like... I feel like the Flowey character development provided by the True Pacifist ending is something that's like... It feels... If we're talking about how it affects the game as a whole, if the true pacifist ending to you makes the narrative of the game feel better, then I think that the narrative of the game as it stands, as probably 99% of people who play the game are going to get the neutral ending, is lacking. Because if we're going to go so far as saying that knowing what Flowey is benefits your understanding of the story, then the story doesn't make any sense as is. Like, if you don't know that, he just is like a malevolent being at the beginning and end of the game, that if you don't double back and see him again over the course of the game, just basically disappears and then shows up again for seemingly no reason.
I think it kind of makes sense to have it there as almost like a reward for getting like the good ending.
Right. But I feel like it's still... The game lacks without it. Like, I was ignoring that fact when I was talking about the game before. It's just kind of like...
I would prefer not to know, honestly. I like having it there if you, like, complete the game without... Like, you overcome, like, that greater challenge.
Right.
As, like, I don't know. I think it works in that way.
I don't think that's a good justification for this game, or, like, games generally, who provide, like... huge story differences for doing like lots of really insane specific actions, because actually I think you've sold me since discussing about this later, particularly since my thoughts aren't particularly concrete since we both just learned about this. But Flowey, even though he's like crazy and unexplained, definitely the ending is supposed to paint him as like this like weird malevolent force, and that's not a thing that generally needs explained in these kind of narratives. And I don't like when games when you do like the hyper uber specific thing, like rewards you by changing huge things in the narrative, because it makes things seem more fluid than they are. Because like if you beat the game in the neutral ending, Flowey seems completely just statically unredeemable, and the information about his like origin as this like soulless recapitulated form seems to support that, but the fact that a soulless recapitulated form would ever work to like the betterment of other beings than himself is that I don't like that change specifically. Like, if I had to be even more specific than I have before, I don't like it when you as a game can like talk down the antagonist if you do like the hyper specific thing, because I feel like the hyper specificity of that thing compared to how it's developed in like so much more of the lore of the game makes it seem less like an alternate outcome and more just like a thing that's incongruent with the rest of the character.
Right. Like, rather than like just in the case of like enemies that exist within the main game itself, like you can talk down most of the day-to-day enemies simply by just being generally nice to them, whereas like a lot of bosses require you to solve some kind of like puzzle to figure it out, which is like, that's not sending the same message. Like, the boss isn't rewarding you for being nice. The boss is rewarding you for like trying all of your options.
I disagree in that case. I liked it in the Flowery example because it was a narrative difference, because what you did said something different about who Flowey was that isn't congruent with his character. But like,
this fucking
he
game
doesn't really have that much of a character.
Well, they try and give him one in that.
Yeah, but I'm
right.
saying like it doesn't really like. It doesn't feel as significant to me as apparently it does to the both of you. Because I feel like as it stands, Flowey is kind of like a generic evil. Right. And then when if you do the true pacifist ending and you get the backstory, like, I don't know, like it doesn't really like affect my opinion of the villain otherwise. Like, I don't feel like it doesn't really like change the character for me.
I guess like the long
I kind of can separate it. It's like I can still see Darth Vader as Darth Vader even though I watched the prequels. You know, like, I don't know, it doesn't bother me.
I think for me the long and short of it is I'm willing to accept Flowey as an ultimate evil character that just shows up to fuck things up at the end, if I'm just accepting that because the ultimate conclusion of this story doesn't mean as much to me as how the rest of the game
I can agree to that as well.
Right.
Yeah,
but
it's about the journey for me.
When you give it that, like, the backstory, the explanation, the ending, it like lends a level of importance to it that I don't think that it warrants given the explanation that they gave.
Oh, God, we all disagree with this on so many different points, because I have like 3 or 4 things I want to respond to now. First, I don't think the Darth Vader comparison is accurate, because Darth Vader has an explanation for what he is. Darth Vader is not just like super god guy who comes in and is unstoppable and fucks things up and is irrationally like hateful of all life. Darth Vader, even within the original trilogy, is a person who ends up eventually redeeming himself, and there are, even if you don't have specific explanations, even if all you get is, oh, he fell to the dark side, the fact that he can be convinced out of it through the love of his son suggests that he had reasons in the first place and wasn't just like a force of evil that exists in the universe.
But I mean, like Flowey was a person that like lost their soul, though.
But you don't know that without the true pacifist ending.
Right.
He didn't...
But you don't know Flowey's backstory without getting the true pacifist ending.
Right.
I know. It's...
In the base game, Flowey's less Darth Vader and more the asteroid in Armageddon.
Yeah.
Like, he has no character motivation,
Right.
It's just going to fuck things up.
And what I would have wanted, ideally, the explanation for what he is to have existed in some way that's easier to access in like all 3 endings. I think I wanted an explanation for why, in contrast to every other living being you encounter in Undertale, there is this one thing with no redeeming qualities at all.
Right.
Even if it's just, the magical hand waving of, it's a recapitulated body with the will to live but no soul, I'm still satisfied with that. I just wanted to know why a game that spent so much of its time trying to tell you that like everything that's alive has value, even if you don't understand it at first, would make an exception to this one thing.
Right. But then with the ending...
But I mean, like, Flowey's like... I don't know, I think the game's kind of trying to have its cake and eat it too. Like, it wants to give you like some like window into the backstory without telling you at all.
Right.
'Cause I feel like the creator probably hasn't answered all these questions. But, like, they didn't want you to know.
I mean...
Maybe that's giving them too much credit, but...
I feel like there's probably something they thought of, but then for, like, resources or whatever they couldn't, implement. But at the same time, it's just, also, like, what's there seems hollow.
He is, like, a human, right, who lost his soul there, which is pretty alien to the area. Could have something to do with
Flowey
that.
was a monster.
Oh, Flowey was a monster?
Right? Because Ezreal was the son
Ezreal was
Asgore.
a monster, never mind.
Yeah.
I'm mixing things up to try to make an explanation.
Okay. since we all disagree on so many things.
I don't think learning that backstory really impacts it for me that much.
I did text Andy about like coming to record for this, and I was like, we're going to do like a little intro to the bonus episode. Is there anything about Kingdom Hearts or Undertale you want to address? And his response was just, how much they suck.
Oh, I see.
Which is, like that's what you want him to. Yeah.
When
he actually had nothing that he wanted to put in, but he did say that.
When I was going to wait to tell Andy that Undertale was my favorite as well, because I assumed that we'll get in like a huge argument forever about it.
Probably
because he will internalize that as I think this game is better than Kingdom Hearts, and it will probably lead to blood.
Right, yeah. You guys might divorce, I think. It's going to be... I mean, I don't know. I don't put any weight on what your favorite games are, considering like 2/3 of them are really bad.
Thanks. Good. Me and Andy generally don't agree that we don't have 2/3 of each other's lists being real bad, so... Also, it's all the sex that we have and stuff.
Yeah,
it creates these other tensions.
Yeah, that'll do it.
That will do it, because we are out of clips that we cut from the Kingdom Hearts and Undertale episodes.
Oh my god, that was a pro-level ending.
Yes, it was!
Thanks for joining us on a bonus clip.
Bow clip.
Bow clip. Short for bonus. And we'll be back next week with a discussion on Trine.
Play it. Enjoy it.
Ooh, later. I feel like I could probably cut the whole thing about the endings and just slide this like 5 minutes back, and this is just like the optimal second half.
I'd probably agree, yeah.
Yeah.